So I want to talk about back to school anxiety for parents. As a parent, I deal with this kind of stuff all the time. Although I'm pretty chill with my kids. I've got two wonderful kids, 9 and 12. I had to think about how old they are because things change so quickly. And I want to talk about the sort of anxiety that we all feel. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Maslach. I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people helping me out that I wanted to pay the favor for to help you out. So I guess this video applies to any stage from, first grade, I guess, all the way through college. It was really thinking about a little bit more of the older student in terms of, your kid is, going back to school and you're really nervous about them actually going back to school. And so, what you're experiencing, I would say, is totally normal. We all go through this kind of stuff. It's a change in your life, and you should be, you should recognize that it's a change in your life, and it's probably a big change, and you're not sort of used to this. And sort of getting over this is never really easy, and we just simply have to sort of acknowledge that it's actually part of our life, right? So if you humanize it, I think it's way easier to deal with these kind of things. I think that's really important for all of us to remember is that it's your child's life, right? And you can't be there all the time. And remembering what we're trying to do is not necessarily to have, perfect kids, is to really get them to a point where they're sort of functional adults and then become good, loving and helpful adults, whatever that looks like, right? Making sure that they actually care for other people. And do, if they're put in a bind, that they're going to make that right decision, whatever that right decision is. So, thinking about how you can actually grow, get them to the point. So any major life decision, anything that's major that happens in your life should not happen where it's like, all of a sudden there's this thing that happens. Right. What you're doing is getting to the point where it just kind of grows and grows and grows, and to the point where when it happens, it's actually really anticlimactic. And you're like, oh, that just happened? And you look back and you're like, oh yeah, you know what? I thought that this would be such a big thing. And then I look back and it's not that big of a thing. Right. So looking at how you can, instead of like viewing as like holding and then go, what you want to look at is like, okay, how can I slowly release and slowly, encourage them to get to the point where they are completely independent. And if they move away, that's their choice and they do great things. That's amazing. But if they don't choose to, and you want to encourage them to do well, that's amazing as well, right? Like getting to the point where they can make the decisions on their own and you can really trust what they're going to do. And that's a super important part, is that having that trust and sort of de-escalating and talking down some of the anxiety of it, and just talking to your kids. Hey, if you're really nervous and anxious about the fact that you're going away, maybe we can talk about this. Do you feel like that, right? Like, why would we be all so upset? I think it's so bizarre. We get so emotional about these things, and really it's just a conversation that you need to have, and often it really just calms things down. The other thing to realize, and I know that this is hard to take, is having a few hard blows every once in a while actually can be very helpful as a person, right? We all need to know that there are some things in this world that just don't work out. We need to have a little bit of adversity. That little bit of adversity is helpful for everybody. And knowing that there is going to be moments where it's like, man, it's not going to work out for them. They're going to struggle and it's still not going to work out, right? Like the world doesn't work out that if you work hard, it's going to always work out. That's not what happens. It could happen. You work hard and nothing happens and it's a complete mess. Well, having those hard blows and knowing how to talk through them and to work through them are actually really helpful for dealing with all sorts of things, right? Like there's going to be things in their life that they're going to have to deal with. Maybe they get a divorce and it wasn't their fault, right? Like all of a sudden their partner just up and leaves or up and starts, dating somebody else. So what do you do? It's not really your fault. How do you walk through that and deal with those emotions and deal with that letdown so you're going to experience. It's going to be really, really helpful to go through that. Or, you have a business agreement with somebody, and that business agreement, like, they decide to screw you over. That happens all the time. That's why we have this army of lawyers. That's what lawyers are for, right? Like, they're for when people screw you over in all sorts of different ways, right? We love to hate them, but generally they're there to protect you. And they're there because many people have screwed other people over. And you could do everything right, and it could work out, and things could work out. But there's many circumstances where it just does not work out, because people are people, and people do all sorts of weird and crazy things, and you can never predict them, no matter how long you've been with them, and all that kind of stuff. And so knowing how to deal with this instead of absorbing it, or even if they absorb it, right, and they think about all the sort of negative things, and that they're a wreck, going through the motions and how to recover is helpful for everybody, right? You don't want to get to the point when you're not around, when your kid is not around, and they're 45 years old, or 60 years old, or whatever, and they can't deal with these things because you're always there. Having somebody to talk through it is really important, but also having them to sort of think about, how can I deal with this? And really thinking about, like, okay, what's a measured amount of how to let them deal with, the pains of just being an adult, because there is a lot of pains that happen. People do mean things to you, and there's nothing that you can do about it. The other thing to remember is you're always just around the corner. If something happens, it's not that hard to actually meet up with somebody or meet up with your kids. They're there. They're always going to be there. You can always go and help them out. It's going to be super helpful for you to sort of de-escalate it and think of, what I'm saying is, it's really just a stepping stone, and there's nothing that you should sort of feel really anxious about, because it's just another part of life. At some point you're not going to be there. Whether they're 85 years old, you're not going to be there when they're 85 years old, and they have to deal with a lot of things. So the more that you can get to the point where they are independent, doing their thing, asking you for guidance, and you helping, like holding their hand, and being there and helpful, to sort of talk about some of these things is going to be very helpful for everybody. So hopefully this helps you out. Really, just, it's a normal part of life. There's nothing you should be scared about. And, just walk through it one day at a time. That's it. All right. So give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.